Welcome everyone, and I could say already a good Erev Shabbos as we learn, sponsored by A.B. Spry, for the safety of our troops and for the betterment of Klal Yisrael, by Shimon Klein, Lili Nishmas, Asher Anshel Ben Yehuda, Gittel Bas Shimon Pinchas, by Irving, for Issa ben Razel and Eliezer ben Razel, for Meir ben Chaya Sarah. They should have all Refuah Shalema B'Seich Sharcheli Yisrael. We welcome here in the shul Reb Blumenfeld and Reb Avram and Reb Kramer and Rich Lenner and Ruben Shannon and of course Saba. And here we just received our 20th Zoomer, as we welcome in Irving Fishbaum, Aaron Swade, Eddie Chazan, Baruch Ian, Nel Zachter, Ben Sion Cohn, Yitzi Muller, A.B. Spry, Berish Gesserman, Ruvain Pollack, Stephen Holtzman, Nachman Chapler, Shimon Deer, Dr. Udell, Shimon Klein, Shalom Fogel, Dr. Block, Yitz Fuchs, Abe Arbach, David Helfgott, on Kalaloshin. As we, tonight, we have a special night planned for tonight. We're going to learn the daf, and then after the daf, we have a chok. Not a long chok, a short chok. Probably we'll finish it maybe even in less than a half an hour, because it's a Friday chok. So on a Friday chok, instead of doing 8 disciplines, we have, let's see, there's the Mishnayos, the Gemara, the Zohar, the Rambam, and the Musar. So instead of 8 disciplines, it's 5 disciplines, and the Zohar and the Gemara is always much shorter. So it's just the hard thing is the Mishnayos. It's the 9th parak of Masechtas Para. Who gets a chance to learn Masechtas Para? I mean, it's not something that Rich does every day of his life. Did you ever learn Masechtas Para? Probably not, right? Most people probably didn't learn Masechtas Para.
No, I haven't seen that Bava myself.
We are learning the daf of the daf. The daf of the daf, because it's daf pei dalet, so it's daf of daf yomi. It happens once a Masechta that you get to learn the daf of daf yomi. Pei dalet is daf. By the way, I also want to welcome Gedali Engel, that's here, lurking in the back. We are ahead over here, Rabbi Say. We are at the last of the small lines on what looks like a very forbidding daf, so gigantic, but it's not hard. Tani Idach, again, we're going to prove that most of this Amid is discussing how we know it, ayin tachas ayin means money and not literally an eye for an eye. So everybody weighs in on this question. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'hakol niyeh b'dvaro. So the great Reb Shimon ben Yochai also has an opinion. Tanya Reb Shimon ben Yochai, ayin tachas ayin, an eye for an eye, mammon, refers to a monetary payment. Mammon, you say it's monetary payment. Ayin ela ayin mamish, maybe it's an actual eye. We knock out the assailant's eye. Hari shahoya suma v'sima. Let's say he was blind already and he blinded a person. Kita v'kiteh, he was already an amputee and he amputated someone. Chiger v'chiger, he was lame and he made someone lame. How could you fulfill an eye for an eye? And unless you say, we do it different then, but there has to be one law. So the Gemara says, that's not a reason. If he has an eye, so it's possible to knock out his eye. If the assailant doesn't have an eye, and he's exempt. The biggest proof is what happens to if you don't say that if you can't do it, you can't do it. A man who is going to die within a year, he has a fatal flaw He has a perforated membrane of the brain. So he's considered like a Gabra Ketila, like a man that's already killed. So Treifa Sharagas Ashalim Mayavdinale. There you have to Nefesh Takas Nefesh. It means actually a life for a life, but there it can't be because he already is considered like a dead man because he can't live a year. Elahecha de Efsher, where you could fulfill it, you fulfill it. Hecha de Lay Efsher, where you can't, to Patrinale. And therefore the Gemara dispenses and, so to speak, discards Reb Shimon bar Yochai's raya. That's not a good raya. Debate Rabbi Shmuel Tana, everybody waves in on this question, all the greats. As we welcome him, Naphtali Javelin, the Gemara says, Debate Rabbi Shmuel Tana, Amakra, Kain Yenosein Boy. Kasher Yiten Mum Bamisai, Kain Yenosein Boy, so do we give to him. And when it says give refers to money. Vein Nesina Elamama. Says the Gemara, Kasher Yiten Mum Ba'adam, when you give a blemish in a man, does that mean stealing? Over there it means punching him, making a blemish. Imre, so the Gemara says, Debei Rabbi Yishmael, the Academy of Rabbi Yishmael was not expounding the word yitain, but the fact that it's superfluous. Kra Yisera Darsha, he's expounding it because it's superfluous. Michtei ksivi ishki yitain mumba misa kasher asa Kenya asalai. It should just say kasher asa, like he did Kenya asalai. Kenya nosein bailamali. Why does it go? It should just say kasher asa, Kenya asa. Why does it say Kenya nosein? Shmami na mamain. So the Gemara says, well then, why does it say kasher yitain in the beginning of the pasuk? Kasher yitain mum ba'adam lamali. Why does it say yitain mum, giving a blemish? Says I need to buy michtav kenyanasim, by since it uses nesina at the end of the pasuk because it wants to teach you that it's talking about money that's given over. Kasim nami kasher yitain mum ba'adam in the beginning of the pasuk for symmetry. So this was a good proof. The Bei Reb Chia Tana Amakra, it says in the pasuk yad biyad. And yad biyad means davar anitein miyad liyad. It means something that's passed from hand to hand. Omayni umama. So the Gemara says alamiyata regel beregel nami hachiyu. Does it mean something that's passed from foot to foot? So the Gemara says imrei debei Reb Chia krayis seira kadarshi. Michtav, where does it say yad biyad? In the pasuk of Kasher Zaman Lasas La'achav, where you do to him what he plotted to do, what the Edom plotted to do to their brother. So once it says Vasisim like Kasher Zaman Lasas La'achav, Isol Kedaitach Mamish, if it means that you cut off the hand, so then why does it have to specify Yad B'Yad Lamali? Why does it have to specify Yad B'Yad? We know it says you should do what he plotted to do to the other person. Shmami na moment. So then regel b'regel amali. Why does it say foot for foot? Says I need to chsiv yad b'yad, since it says hand by hand. So kasim nami regel b'regel, only for symmetry purposes. So that's also a good proof. Abaya amar asyam edetani debei Chizkiah. We learn it out from that which we learned in the Academy of Chizkiah. The Tana de Beichizkiah, ayin tachas ayin, nefesh tachas nefesh. It says eye for an eye, a soul for a soul, a life for a life. V'loy nefesh v'ayin tachas ayin. You don't pay for a life and also for an eye. Now, the Gemara says so obviously over here that when it says ayin tachas ayin, it doesn't mean an eye for an eye. Because if it means literally you knock out his eye, maybe sometimes he'll die because of that. A shock of blinding his eye might kill him. But it says nefesh tachas nefesh and ayin tachas ayin, but never is it going to be a nefesh and an eye for a nefesh. But v'yisol kedaitach mamish, that you gouge out the eye, zimnim demishkachas lo ayin v'nefesh tachas ayin. It will be an eye and his life for an eye. Why? The bahadi the overlay, when he blinds him, nafkalei nishmasa, he might die from the shock, from the shock of the wound. Says the Gemara, okay. All it means is that we have to evaluate. The doctor has to be able to assess if he could handle the shock. And if the doctor made a mistake, so be it. My question, Dilma Maimed Amdinale, we have to evaluate him. They bring in a doctor, or maybe two doctors. Imotzi Mekabel Avdinan, if he could tolerate that his eye being taken out, good. V'iloi Motzi Mekabel Lo Avdinan, if he can't tolerate, then we don't do it. Now, V'i Amdinan the Motzi Mekabel, and if we evaluate that he could take it, V'avdinan Bey, and they administer the punishment, V'nofik Ruche, and he expires, Imayis Lema, so let it be. After all, we evaluate how much malchus he could take. We give 39 lashes, but they have to evaluate how many sets of 3 he could take. If the doctor says he could only handle 18, so we only give him 18. Then if he dies with 18, the shliach baskin is potter. Miloi Tanan Gabi Malchus, Duhu, if we evaluate he could take 18 lashes, Omeis Tachas Yodai Potter. So here too, maybe you take a knock out the eye. It says not a nefesh and the eye. That means that you have to see if he could take it. So that wasn't a good proof. Rev Zvid, Mishmei de Rabba Amar Kra Petza Takas Petza, a wound for a wound, and we learn out from here, Litain Tsar B'mokum Nezek, that you have to pay, besides for the damages, you have to pay for the pain that you cause. But wait a second. If it means that we cut off your hand like you cut off somebody else's hand, you already got the pain. Why do you have to pay for pain? The Isol Kedaitach Mamish, that it means that we cut off the hand, Ki Eichi de Lahai Avalei Tzara, just like this one had pain, the assailant has pain when you cut off his hand. So he also replaced the pain. Says, well, my cushion. Maybe it's talking about where the victim was a weak person. He didn't have stamina, and the pain was atrocious. And the assailant was a strong person, and the pain wasn't so bad. So he has to pay the difference. There's a person that's delicate and has a lot of pain. Islay tzara tvei, he has a lot of pain. And less late tzara. And he doesn't have so much pain, and therefore the pasuk says petza tachas pesa l'may nachkamina l'meisvei hechte beini beini, to give the difference, because when his hand is cut off, the assailant's hand is cut off, he doesn't suffer so much, while the one whose hand he cut off suffered a lot, so you have to pay the difference. Yeah.
But you're paying, and you're not paying this to both to the same party. You're punishing him part way, and you're giving money. How would that work?
Well, simple. If we say that the penalty is that you should experience what you did to the other, then whatever you could experience, that exempts you. What it doesn't exempt, then you have to give the compensation. Now, again, we want to welcome in Pesach Siegelman has joined us, and Abe Arbach has joined us, Yitzi Muller, with 25 Zoomers. We're still missing some of our Eilam. I guess this is Yeshiva week, so some people might be away for Yeshiva week. I know Mark Frankel is still working in the middle of the night. Marshall might be cooking for his shul. Okay. By the way, it's as we get ready to start Bava Metzia before long, this goes till I think around 120. So we're at 80. So we have around a month. So it's already high time for people to look to get new people to join us. We've been pretty steady, around 30, 35 at the most. We really should be gaining new people. Now, Says the Gemara weiter. Rapapa mishmei de Rava Amar Krav v'rapo yurape. You should cure litain refuah b'makam nezik. That besides paying for the damage, you pay for the medical bills. So again, the Gemara says it's a wash, because just like you cut off the person's hand, and he needs medical, they're going to cut off your hand. You're going to need medical. Just like the one who he cut off his hand needs a doctor, the assailant that you cut off his head will also need a doctor. Mike says, again, that's not a good enough proof. Mike Kusha. There are those whose flesh heals quickly. And the other one, his flesh doesn't heal quickly. And if the victim didn't heal quickly, to give the difference in the medical bills. Rav Ashi Amar, as we start the first wide line on Pei Dalet Amud Aleph, Rav Ashi Amar, Asya Tachas Mishar. We learn out Gzeirah Shava Tachas from an Aksiv Acha Ayin Tachas Ayin, an eye for an eye. V'Ksiv Hasam Shalom Yishalem Shor Tachas Ashar. So over there it means money. Malahala Mammon, Afkan Mammon. So the Gemara says, but why should we learn out from the axe? My chazis yofis takas mishar, neilif takas me adam, from a case of capital punishment. Dichsivin asata nefesh takas nefesh, and that means actual life. That's capital punishment. Malahalan mamish, afkan maybe ayin takas ayin is mamish. Amar, so he says, done in nezikim and nezikin. We learn out damages from damages, because by the shor it was damages, and here it's damages. They ain't done in nezikim and misa. We don't learn out damages from murder. Says, well, but just the opposite. Adrab, done in adam ma'adam. We should learn out man for man. They ain't done in adam and behema, rather than comparing it to a shor. Amar Rav Ashi, we learn it out from a different tachas. The tachas by rape. Mitachas asher ino yolaflei. Because he humiliated her and caused her pain, therefore he pays the chamishim shekel. That's Adam me Adam, that's a man, and the Nezikin, and it's damages the Nezikin. So therefore it's more comparative. So that was a good proof. That's a solid proof, tachas. Tanya, we learned in the Brayso, here we have finally a different opinion. Rebbe Eliezer, I'm ayin tachas ayin mamish. An eye for an eye, literal. So says mamish salkadaita. We knock out his eye. Rebbe Eliezer, less like kechol ani tanai, doesn't hold of all these proofs. Says no, it means we evaluate the eye. If, let's say, who's looking relatively wicked tonight? Rich. Rich is looking wicked. He has that wicked look on him. If Richard knocks out Chatzkel's eye, we have to evaluate not Chatzkel's eye, but we evaluate Rich's eye. That's his opinion. Amar Rabba Loimish ain't shaman oisai ke'eved. So the Gemara says, what, you don't evaluate him like a slave? You evaluate him like a free man? There's no value of a free man. Ben chayrin miyislay demei. A slave is sold in the slave market. We don't sell free men. We don't evaluate Chatzkel's eye, we evaluate Rich's eye, and he has to pay him the value of his own eye. We don't pass him that way. Okay, now we're going to move on to actual cases, and here is you got to be careful when you say something over to a Rav. You have to know what he's talking about. The Rav has to know what he's talking about. In this case, Hahu Chamra, the Kata Yodin in Yenuka. There was a donkey that chewed off the hand of a child, Rahman al-Islam. Now, chamer could be a donkey, it could also be a donkey driver. So the Gemara says, also the Kamid Rapapa Bashmul, he came before Rapapa Bashmul, Amalahu Zilu Shumalei Arba Devarim. Go and evaluate the 4 items. In other words, we'll see in the Gemara, this means besides the nezek, besides the damages, you also have to pay for tsar, ripui, shevis, and baishas. And it's a child old enough to have humiliation. But right away, the question is, first of all, why is it 4? V'anan chamisha tanan, it's 5. Amalei levar menezek kamin, besides paying the damages. But then the Gemara asks, Amalei abaye v'chamoru, it's a donkey. A donkey only pays for damages. The chamor ain't a mishalem el nezek. Oh, so he says, I didn't know you were talking about a donkey. I thought you were talking about the donkey driver did it. Amalahu zilu shumalei niska. So go and evaluate the damage. So the Gemara says, well, ka'avda boilim mishayme. You have to evaluate in the slave market. So amalahu zilu shaymu ka'avda. The father of the child didn't want the child to be subjected to the humiliation of being brought to the slave market. I don't want to do that because it's disgraceful that he should be brought to the slave market. So the Bezdin told him, you can't, this money is going to go into the child's account. This child is going to have a hard time in life because he's missing his hand. You can't deprive the child. So Amalahu, so the father, who is a man of means, said, when he grows up, I'll pay him for my own funds, rather than having him go through that. And it's possible, although the Gemara doesn't say, it's possible they make him put money in escrow, because otherwise, maybe by the time he grows up, he'll lose the money. It's possible they make him put money in escrow to make sure that it's there for the child. Okay, just getting underway on a beautiful Thursday night, Leil Erev Shabbos, Kodesh, Motzi Tu B'Shvat, I heard you say Tishba earlier. Tu B'Shvat, making trouble. You said Tu B'Av also, but you said Tisha B'Av. I listen to everything that's going on in this building. But anyway.
Something I would do.
Huh?
It's more something I would do.
Were you ready to listen to the share today?
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that. It was a miscommunication with my wife. She had a client, and we used the same Zoom. And I actually opened the Zoom, and I opened it up in the middle of her session, which is something. So I right away got off. I could have kicked her off to Facebook, but to FaceTime. But she told me that she gets better results when she does it on Zoom. I didn't want to do that. Hahu Tura. The olis yodei dianuka. There was an axe that chewed the hand of a child. Also the kami to Rava, so they came before Rava. Amalahu, so Rava said, Zilu shaimua ka'avda. Go and evaluate the damage like an Evid. So now here the question is, this was outside of Eretz Yisrael. Can such an evaluation be made by judges that are not smuchin, that are not only the judges in Eretz Yisrael had official smicha? So Amrulei, they said to him, but V'hamarhu da Amar, the master said, Kol anishim ke'eved, any evaluation that has to be done like a slave, ain't goyven oisai b'bavel. You don't collect in Bavel. So he said, I only meant that in case they grabbed money from you, you should know how much. You're right. They can't collect it in court, but if they grab it from you, then they're allowed to keep it. If they grabbed it. Rava l'tamei, the Amar Rava says, Niske shar b'shar, we collect the damages that an axe did on an axe, v'nikske sharba adam, and the damages that a man does on an ox. That's collected in Bavel. Niske adam ba'adam, but the damages that a man does to a man, or niske adam b'shar, or the damages that an axe does to a man, ain goyven oisay b'Bavel. So the Gemara says, I don't understand. Maishna niske adam ba'adam v'niske adam b'shar. Why do you say that the damage is done from a man to a man, or from an axe to a man? We don't collect in Bavel the loy because Elohim ba'in. You need judges that are considered Elohim, which are smuchin v'leka. So then niske shar b'shar v'shar ba'adam nami, the damages of an axe to an axe and a man to an axe, you should also not collect, because Elohim ba'inon. You need judges that are smuchin, and you don't have it v'leka. Elamaishna shar b'shar v'shar ba'adam. Why do we say that if an axe damages an axe, or a human damages an axe, it's collectible in Bavel? Dishlichusayu ka'avdinan, the court judges in Bavel are the agents of the smuchin in Eretz Yisrael. Midei dahavi yahodois v'alvois, and that's how they can adjudicate cases of admissions and loans. So Adam b'shar, when a human damages a human, or an axe damages a human, nami shlichus sayu kavdina, we should say that they are the agents of Eretz Yisrael, midei dahavi ahodos v'alvois, like admissions and loans. So now the Gemara starts slicing and dicing. Imre kiko avdinon shlichus sayu. Where do we say that we are trusted to do their agency? B'midei de kimlon begave, when it's something that has a fixed price. B'midei de loy kimlon begave, because over here you need to evaluate. Loy avdinon shlichusai. So the Gemara says, well, but imrei shar b'shar v'shar b'adam nami, even when an axe damages an axe, or a human damages an axe, also like kimlon begave, we have to evaluate. Ella, says the Gemara, we have to poik chazi heichem is davin turu b'shuka. We have to go and see how much the axe would be sold in the marketplace to evaluate it. Adam ba'adam v'adam shar nami. So when a shar damages an adam, or a human damages an adam, poik chazi heichem is davnei avdei b'shuka. Go and see how much the value is in the slave market. And furthermore, tishlam kefil v'tishlam arba b'chamisha, according to you, the damages of kefil and the damages of dalad v'hei, the kitze, that's a fixed amount, navid shlichusai, we should do their agency. Says no. Imre kikav din shlichusai, that we know that we don't pass in a knas in Bav. Kikav din shlichusai b'mamayna, with monetary matters. But knasa, penalties like kefil and dalad v'hei, lo yavdin and shlichusai. Now, says Gemara, adam ba'adam, when a man damages a man, that's monetary, that's compensatory, that's not a knas. D'mamaynahu navid shlichusai, we should do their agency. Kika avdinan shlichusai b'milsa d'shchicha, something that's common. Adam ba'adam deloy shchicha, a man with a man, people don't go around damaging people. Since that's not shchiach, that's not common, lo yavdinan shlichusai. Says Gemara, hari boishes upgam, humiliation and devaluation. And here, it's talking about oines and mafata, case of rape and seduction. It seems to be that this was not something that was rare. The shchiach, interesting that oines should be considered shchiach. It's a very big chiddush, but especially amongst Klal Yisrael, that rape should be considered shchiach. Chiddush. Why is it considered shchiach? Klal Yisrael, rape is not shchiach. Anyway, Imre says, Imre Achinami, we do pay for humiliation. Papa Agve Arba Mea Zuze Lebaishas. Papa collected 400 zuz for humiliation. It says, Gemara, Papa. We don't hold the Rav Papa. The Shalchlei of Chisda Rav Nachman, for Rav Chisda sent to Rav Nachman, this is referring to another case that we had in Hamaniach Esakad, that
He hit him with a garden utensil, I think. He wanted for places.
what? No, this wasn't Achashverosh. This was in a case that he hit him with a hoe. Yeah, with a hoe. So the Gemara says the Shalchrei of Chisda of Nachman, you're connecting a penalty in Bavel. Now, even though Baishis is certainly not a penalty, so he didn't mean literally a penalty, but he said, Baishis is compensatory, but he said, are you collecting for that which we have to evaluate in Bavel? Where do we do their agency? B'milsa de shchicha, in a matter that's common, v'isbei chisaron kiss, and it involves loss of money out of pocket. Aval milsa de shchicha v'les bei chisaron kiss, but there's no money out of pocket. Inami milsa de loy shchicha, or something that's not common, v'isbei chisaron kiss, loy avdin shlichusay. So hilkach adam ba'adam, a man that damages a man, even though there is loss of value, since it's not common, even though it's common, but you humiliate someone, it's bad feelings, but there's no actual monetary damage. So the Gemara says, hold everything. You just said that if an ox damages an ox, we collect in Bavel. Is that true? V'shar goyven b'Bavel. V'amar Rava shar shehizik ain't goyven oisei b'Bavel. A shar that damages, we don't collect in Bavel. Dazik man. Ilay madazik adam. If it's damaged a man, well, it's not just the shor that damages a man. We don't collect that in Bavel either. Elapshita the azik shor. It means a shor that damages a shor. And he says, Viktani ain't goyven oisei b'Bavel. So there's a very simple answer. It's talking about a shor tam. And we hold katzi nezik as a knas. Imre hasam b'tam. A tam you don't pay because you don't pay knases in Bavel. Here where he says you pay a shar for a shar, it's talking about a mu'at. Says Gemara, wait a second. But how does the shar become a mu'at? V'amar Rava ain't mu'at b'Bavel. You can't make a shar hamu'at in Bavel because you can't. You could only testify against it to make it a shar mu'at in Eretz Yisrael. Imre di'iyayid hasam. No, it became a mu'at in Eretz Yisrael, and the show was brought here. For I say lahach, says Gemara, wait a second. You said that we don't pass in something that's not shliach. It's very not shliach that a show became a mu'at in Eretz Yisrael, and then it was brought to Bavel. V'amilsa dolei shliachi, umilsa dolei shliach, ha'amrit dolei avdin and shlichasayu. Says Gemara, no, there were Eretz Yisrael judges in Bavel, and they made it a mu'at. The Asir Rabbanan, the Hasim, V'yadu Hacha, and they made it a mu'at. Says Gemara, well, that's also not shliach. that there should be judges here and from Eretz Yisrael, and 3 times they made it a mu'at. Seif milsa lo yishlichu, v'at amrit milsa lo yishliach lo yikavdina shlichusayu. We don't do their agency. Elakikama rava b'shein v'regel. Where do we say shah b'shah that's damaged? That's a shah that goes into somebody's field and eats the food in the field, or that goes and tramples something in the person's courtyard. That's a mu'ad mitchilasa. That's a mu'ad in the first place. The mu'ad mitchilasa, so there you pay even in Bava. Now the Mishnah moves on. Tsar, pain, kavu bishbud, if he burns him with a heated spit, or cause him nail, he takes a nail and causes him pain. Even if there's no damage, he has to pay, just for the pain. So the Gemara says, "Tsar shaloi b'makom nezik mishtale mantana." Who holds that you have to pay for pain even though there was no damage? Like you put something hot on a person's nail, and it causes him momentary pain, but there's no damage. How do you know you have to pay? Who says this? Mantana. Who's the author that holds that you have to pay in such a case? Amarava ben Azai. It's ben Azai. The Tanya, Rebbe Eimer, Kfia Nemra Tchila. It says burn first. Ben Azai Eimer Chabura Nemra Tchila. It says wound first. It says Kfia Tachas Kfia, Chabura Tachas Chabura. So one says, it says wound first, and one says it says burn first, and one says it says wound first. But my kamifli, Rebbe Savar Kviya the Lespa Chabura Mashma. Kviya implies a burn without a wound. Kaser Rachmana Chabura, but then it says afterwards Chabura Tachas Chabura to tell you Ligluye Allah, since Chabura Tachas Chabura already covers where there is a wound, so that comes to reveal Ligluye Allah the Kviya the Ispa Chabura in. It's coming to tell me only a wound, a burn that has a wound. Eloi. So that's why kviya tachas kviya would imply even if there was no wound. But then it says chabura tachas chabura to clarify that the only time you're chayav for pain is if you make a wound. That's the opinion of the Tanakh of Rebbe. Ben Azai savar kviya the ispa chabura mashma. A burn is where there is a wound. It says that afterwards ligluya ala the kviya to say that the first case of kiyah is talking about the lespa chabura, even if there's no wound. Rav Papa says, I agree with you in saying that that's what the machlokes is, but it's completely opposite. Maskvra Papa Adrab Ipcha Mistabra. Rabbi Aimer Kfiya Nemer Tchila. He holds Savar Kfiya de Ispa Chabura Mashma. Kfiya implies where there's no wound. Excuse me, sorry. Kfiya de Ispa Chabura Mashma. Kfiya implies it's accompanied by a wound. Kasev Rachmana Chabura, it says Chabura Ligluye Allah to reveal that the kviya the lespa chabura. It's even if it doesn't have a wound. Ben Azi Aimer Chabura Nemet Tvila. Savar he holds kviya the lespa chabura mashma. That alone would be implied even if there's no wound. Kasev Rachmana Chabura Ligluya Allah to reveal the kviya the ispa chabura in only if there's a wound. Eloi. So the bottom line is v'amaskana kaime, and each one is saying the end result. Rabbi who says kviya nemra tchila, he's telling you that it's true. You're chayiv even if there's no wound, and the one that says chabura nemra tchila is telling you that you're only chayiv if there is a wound. So here we have a machlokes here between Rebbe and Ben Azai. Both Lashonis hold the different opinions in them. But one holds that you're chayiv for pain even when you didn't make a wound, like if it's on the nail. and one says you're chayiv for pain only if you made a wound. Now we're going to stop over here and start a chok. We need the green screen, and also we want to remind you that Shir on Shabbos is Be'ezus Hashem at 7:45. This will probably be the last Motzei Shabbos at 7:45. Probably next Motzei Shabbos will already move to 8 o'clock. And now we're going to do a Chok Yisrael.